Today, we have Azri Zakariya, and I'm so excited. He is probably one of my newest little pals, whether or not he likes it. He's in Manuk, and yeah, we've hit it off. So I really want you to hear his opinion. He's not only an online coach, an excellent one, but he's a doctor. Could you get better? So today we're going to be talking about his journey into fitness, how he feels about managing the stress levels as a doctor, and also helping me debunk to you some of the fitness myths that I have hated for a long time. So I'm very excited. Azri, welcome.
Thank you for having me on, Annie. Very much appreciate the kind intro as well. Thank you for the kind words about myself.
Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, so tell me, how did how does one become a doctor and then decide, that's it, actually, I'd rather be an online coach? Like, where are you at? Can I just say, guys, Azri is still studying, so he's still in the journey. He's not going to stop.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. I think it's one of those situations where you have purpose behind what you want to achieve. And for me, I got into the fitness space quite early as well. So that's where I knew I really liked the fitness space. I really liked training. And then you realize that, medicine ends up being the plaster to the solution. And then you have the real solution on the back end, which is the actual health side of things and how to improve your health for the long run so you can prevent those problems that inevitably come up.
I love that so much because, that's what we all hope is that, could I be doing more? What could I do to prevent rather than have to cure issues that come up? I absolutely want to know about your start, but briefly, please, Azri, can you explain where do you think the prevention would start? What are the things on the ground that we could be doing to try and secure that?
Very good question. So prevention does start with your general health and how you look after it on a daily basis. And that's what I really, really want to hit on. It definitely is a matter of making the changes incrementally over a long period of time. So those bad decisions early in life don't stack up and compound into this big problem, which is a sudden thing, which really isn't sudden. We know for a fact that looking after yourself, sleeping well, eating well, exercising properly is going to be the base level of what gives you proper health and proper longevity in the long run. So basically making sure that you're looking after yourself mentally, physically, so you don't have to incur these issues which pull you down and give you these thoughts of, could I have prevented this? In hindsight, could I have done something about this? You don't want to ever sit in that situation where you feel like that's the case. And, if you're in that situation as well, after going through the medical route, if you have needed to go down that route, you will still be prescribed a solution around looking after yourself with exercise, sleep, eating properly. And that's always the core of actually what gives you long-lasting change.
I love that. It also makes me feel like hopefully we're going to feel a bit better just by going for a walk. It's in our hands. It's not something outside of ourselves that we have to hope and pray for. Right, Azri, tell me how are you? You're so young. You're so ambitious to me. Like hardworking, clear thinker. Like I could never have. I don't believe I would have had it in me to have your, directness and your steady thought pattern to do the things that you're doing. How did you become a doctor? What made you want to first become a doctor?
So with medicine, my dad was a doctor, so I think that was one of those things where you kind of go into a straight path because that was kind of the only thing that you knew. But at the same time, I always knew that there's only a certain number of people you can help by yourself. And being a doctor on its own is brilliant and it's a very, very fulfilling role, but it's basically limited to just yourself. So I knew I could, with the time I knew I had available and with the energy I knew I could expend on doing other things, and with stacking up the knowledge and information I had around fitness, around health, I knew I could help a lot more people. So getting into medicine itself was more about this is the only path I really knew, and probably more out of fear getting into it, to be honest. I think fear is a big thing that plays into a lot of people's decision-making processes early on, because that there was this one route that you have to go down with university, and that's the main thing that, everyone in the education system gets put into. But then you very soon realize that, there is so much outside of just education in the mainstream system. Even with, a role like medicine, I really do think that everyone does have the time to put outside of this. And I'm not taken away from the fact that, I was in a good situation. Like, as we talked about earlier as well, I was born in England. I was born into a good family, and my parents really liked me as well and loved me, and they looked after me as well. So I'm so grateful for that. And that's probably the biggest reason I actually got into medicine, because, they wanted me to be the best version of myself. And for them, that was through education. So, because traditionally that is what got people into a successful life, right? Which is a very big term, because I truly don't believe that I was chasing success. It was more competitive greatness, I would say. And that's where you really try and figure out, like, what more can I be doing to serve as many people as possible? Because I heard this from Lewis Howes, actually. So success is very much limited to yourself and your own beliefs as to what you want to achieve to better yourself. Greatness is improving yourself to a point where you can serve as many people as possible. And that's where I truly wanted to be the actual best at what I wanted to be at. So being the best in terms of fitness got me to a certain point. That was where I was like, okay, I've transformed my body. I was in a position where I was 97 kilos, heavily overweight, and I was out of breath all the time, had my wheels hanging out, which is basically where I was struggling with for a long time, couldn't fit in shirts and hated how I looked in photos. And that was the majority of my early life as well. And that's when, you really do need to look at yourself in the mirror, ask yourself the right questions. Is this where I want to be? Why do I feel bad? And is this how my life actually looks like? Do I need to live in this state where I'm just constantly guessing whether I'm good enough? And then you go down the process of what you always knew, learning. So when you start learning, you realize that there's so much more that you do need to know to get to your goal. And then it's a matter of implementing and taking action on those goals. So the only thing that got me to where I was at was the big steps, which aren't that big in hindsight. Actually, it was more incremental steps, but what actually compounded into being a big transformation or a big step, that changed the trajectory of my life. So having more energy, feeling better about myself, having more confidence to actually put myself out there, that was the end result of the 10% better every day that I was really aiming for, which I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that I was trying to get better to get out of this position of feeling horrible. But when you realize that the main thing that you're really searching for is to reach your full potential, and you're holding yourself back by your own self-limiting beliefs and fear as to what could be done. There's 3 types of fear of judgment, fear of success, fear of failure. So I was heavily in this period of, what do other people think about me? Why am I going to train every day? What do other people think about this? What is the other people's thoughts? And when you realize you really can't control that, you have so much more freedom around what you can actually do. Because when you stop caring about what other people think, you get past that first level of fear, which is the fear of judgment. And then, the fear of failure is where, like, will this actually work for me? Am I actually going to make it? Can I actually do all this at the same time? And can you actually, I would say, because not many other people have done. So I always tried to look for one person who's been there and done it. And that's the person which rebuilt that belief as to whether it was possible. There's very specific people I know, and I have them at the top of my head, and I truly do remember. I'm very grateful for having met them, being in my life as well, who showed me it was possible very early on. So when I just had that role model, that figure, which I could look up to, that's when I was like, okay, I know it's possible. It can be done. why aren't I there? And then that's the whole process of, figuring out what else can you do? How much time do you actually have? How can you manage your energy properly? And just doing the thing really, and relentless aggression behind it. So that's where it really came about, the whole start.
I love that so much on so many different levels. Can you tell me how you got through, because you said that you did, you got through caring what other people think, but how did that look in real time, tangibly?
Yeah, so growing up, I knew that, there were maybe things being said about me. There were most likely things being said which aren't all positive, because it's inevitable. Like, you're always going to have people who like you, don't like you, which is fine, because I still put myself out there to an extent. So I was quite outgoing, I would say, to an extent. And then it was the opposite, and then it was the opposite. It was very up and down. So I always knew there were opinions about me which did bother me, but at some point,
Really?
like more based on, how I looked, maybe how I acted, how I put myself out there with social media. It's not technically normal. Like, for most people, 99% of people, putting pictures out there where your photos are like sharing your progress wasn't that normal. Like, I feel it's only the past 5 years, or 3 to 5 years, where fitness on social media has become a lot more popularized, and sharing progress has been popularized, right? I was there a bit earlier, so it wasn't really the norm. And, I always had thoughts about what other people might think about that, which really stopped me. And then, it was just in general, like day-to-day life as well. So what was more important was the actual step into realizing that, I have a specific goal that I'm actually going towards. Everyone else's thoughts, or my thoughts of their thoughts, was what was stopping me. There may be absolutely nothing said. Like, there's always a point where, other than the stuff that people say to your face, maybe there was absolutely nothing said. So it was really figuring out, like, if I can't change it, why am I thinking about it? So that's where I tried to handle every problem or thought mentally in my head as well. It's like, why do I think this? Is the reason why I'm thinking this because I'm scared of what other people think as well? So that's how I really handled everything in life, with the business side of things as well. It's like, am I not taking action right now with, investing into new stuff, investing into other avenues of the business, because I have the fear of this not working out, and everything's going to crash, and I have this identity linked to wherever I'm at. So it's always a matter of, do I actually care about what other people think? Is that what's actually stopping me?
So good. And how do you find that now? Obviously, it would have been probably a bigger deal before, but obviously it comes up. It's like waves, doesn't it? It's not as if that you can intellectualize it and it never pops up. How do you deal with it now? Is it a bit more fleeting, and so you can kind of run yourself through that script quicker? Would you say, or would you say that it just doesn't affect you in the same way at all?
It, of course, affects me to an extent at all times. It's now just how I handle that, the thought process behind handling that, and how I do go about that is with very delayed responses emotionally to everything. So I'm not as reactive emotionally, as we talked about as well, to anything really. I'm very neutral around most situations. I don't really get angry. I don't get too happy about stuff, which I also think is important. I don't get upset about stuff. I'm not saying I don't have emotions. I just don't act on them fast. As in, this is what's helped me actually prevent me getting stressed, anxious about things. It's like, will this matter tomorrow, first of all? Will I still be angry about this tomorrow? If it is, then will I still be angry about this 2-3 years down the line? Or will I still be stressed about this problem 2-3 years down the line? And if it is really that bad, then what can I learn about what's just happened, the situation, and what can I do to be better next time, to change it, and how can I handle it better next time? If I did make an emotional decision around something instead of a logical decision, then it's always a learning process. Why did that happen? What can I do to fix whoever this may have affected? How can I actually go about, with people around me, with relationships, making sure that have I actually been the best person I could have been to this person. If this person was meeting me for the first time, they know nothing about me, would I have acted this way, or should I have acted this way? Because I viewed a lot, as cringy as it sounds, I viewed a lot of my life from very early on as if I were in a documentary. If there was a camera set up, following me around every single second of my life, in my home, in wherever I go, if there was a camera set up in every single track of every single second of my life, how would I act and how would I actually behave day to day? So the actions I take, would that be in alignment to where I want to go, what I view as my own character? And is it something that, would actually inspire people? Or would it be something that I'd be like, I probably shouldn't be doing this. Like, I probably should be doing work right now, or actually doing something that's productive, and I probably shouldn't be acting like this. So I always think about it that way. So I'm very aware of how I'm acting.
Do you feel that has a double-edged sword, because it could be quite stressful feeling like you're constantly on and you have to act in a certain way? Because as much as we want to maneuver life and control the aspects that we can control, which I absolutely agree with, like I think that's super important, we do, I think, probably need to allow for the fun, the creativity, the ad hoc. How does that how do you marry that bit?
Yeah, it was honestly a process I'm trying to slowly unlearn. It's one of those things that you do for so long that you feel that that's what you should do. And yes, it does definitely weigh down on you to a certain extent. But at the same time, I do think that life goes in seasons. And for me, I've seen seasons in my life in a long time horizon. So it's always like, where do I want to be 5 years from now instead of tomorrow, next week kind of thing. So I'm 23, so I've seen this season in my life as real growth progress, as in I've always seen this season as like a closing window. So in terms of just Parkinson's law, when you have a closing window of 10, you're most likely going to get more done in that period of time. So that's how I'm currently viewing this season of my life right now. And you're 100% right. It's not served me well in so many aspects of my life. And, there are situations where I look back and it's definitely played a big part in me not being the best version of myself in terms of, time spent with family, relationships, basically being the person that I should be and I know I would be if I was 60 years old. And I look up to people older than me a lot, and I've surrounded myself. I have so much respect for people that are older than me, especially with people who are in the situation I want to be in. And I did that very early on because I truly believe the people that you're surrounded by who are the people are going to mold your future as well. So because that was very difficult early on, I listened to a lot of podcasts, read books. That was most of my day. Like any free time I was eating, sleeping, it was just around these people. And when you really figure out what actually matters in life with these people who are super successful, super accomplished, millionaires, and you realize like what's actually important in their life when they're 60, and you realize that the time actually spent with their family, that being in their 20s is what they would trade everything that they've accomplished for to get back. Then you kind of have to reassess your thought process around this, which is where I'm saying, I'm really trying to unlearn a lot of, I would consider, bad habits, which got me to where I am. But that is a slow process. I understand that. I'm basically giving you an idea of what worked for me, but also what it costed at the same time. And, that's now I'm really trying to, speak to my parents more and like go on holidays and do things that I would want to look back at and be like, okay, these are memories which I've created and will last. So I do luckily have the freedom to actually do that as well. I have a really good team around me. There's a set of things as well, and the medicine side of things, I know I can allocate a certain amount of hours and cellular revision, getting through it basically, and that will be absolutely fine. And now I am still in that process of growth, but a very self-aware process. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
And that makes perfect sense. And beyond that, it's, I think, really helpful. I'm pretty sure speak to a lot of people, because that's the thing. We all want to think that what we're doing is either right or wrong, but that's absolutely not the case. Like, what you did is how you got to where you are, but it's also good to reevaluate it. I liken it with self-care, for instance. What we use to relax and look after ourselves in our teens, in our 20s, is going to be different from what we need in our 30s and our 40s. And it's the same with a work ethos and focus. Because I was just about to say, like, where did this come from at such a young age to want to sort of be so focused and not run off with your pals and drink and run around and be silly, but to be so invested in helping other people, and be a doctor, or you want to do the next stage. But at the same time, I just think I think it's great. I think it's great. And also you're paying, you're paying the price, but you're paying a good price, because people don't tend to be that self-aware that young. It's more act now, think later. So I don't know. I think it's a worthy cost. Like, yes, it's difficult to unpick, but it's that or the other way,
Yeah, I always saw it as, I want to get to the end of my life and be able to be in a position where I could say, I gave away everything. And for me to give away everything in my life, as in what I've built up, that needs to be, for me, in my head at a certain point. And I know that can be done incrementally over a long period of time, which is something I do. But, I want to make sure that, my parents have everything that they deserve because of how they brought me up as well. So they will be very, very well looked after, and they are there. So basically, on top of that, making sure I can serve as many people as I possibly can and give away as much as I possibly can. I have big goals. I want to open up my own hospital. I want to give ways to as much to charity as I possibly can, because I know getting to the end of your life, there's nothing that you can really leave behind except what compounds for how many people you can help after you die as well. And if you're anything like that, is probably rare. I grew up quickest as well. Just that thought of knowing that could all be over soon. So what am I actually doing? So yeah, no, that is a big, big thing. So as dark as it might sound at an early age, yeah, no, it was like just knowing that I have a greater purpose, which I personally want to work towards. And for me, luckily, that is very, very fulfilling. And my actual path to getting there is very, very fulfilling for me.
Love it so much. I have to ask this question because it's just something that I think people would want to know about. I really want to come back to the hospital, but let's just quickly ask. So a lot of 23-year-olds are not mentally in the same space to you. Is there any time that you just want to go, oh no, that's it, I want to go and sit and Xbox, or, you ever think, oh, I want to unhook? Or where do you think, what separates you? How do you think you got this perspective?
It's a really good question. So I'm sure there was a time where, I was definitely at a point where I was like, okay, I kind of want to turn off. I kind of want to just relax, and that is it. And I just want to get by, get through medicine. That's it. But then at some point, it does click that you want to be more. And I think most people do have this voice inside of them that says that they could be better. For me, it was just very, very loud. So it was like, I just knew that, it's the actions that I'm taking today that are going to produce the results. I think everything that you see as a result of this is just a lagging measure of what's actually been done in terms of work. So it definitely was a thing of, I have people I look up to and I really want to be there, like really, really want to be there. And the pain of not fulfilling my absolute potential would be so, so great that it wouldn't make sense for me to do much else. Like, it just really wouldn't. I really didn't want to do anything that didn't work me towards my goals, because the work, I say work, I don't really view it as work, but the stuff I was doing is exactly what I want to do. It's like, I really wouldn't do anything else with my time if I had the option, except, maybe spend some more time with friends and family, which I'm really trying to do now. But, I do say, I've taken kind of a selfish route around this as well, because this is exactly what I want to do. So it's like, for me, it's great. And I'm just glad that, it can help other people as well.
It's amazing. Tell me, let's say that you may have friends that aren't as motivated as you and they want to be successful. I'm asking because I think there's probably, let's say, parents out there with their kids, maybe they're trying to get them to be more resilient. They're trying to get them to be more focused, want them to work harder. Do you think that this is more of a natural thing for you? Were your parents directed you in certain ways? Are they tough in certain areas? Or do you think that this is more of this is how you've always been? So it's not.
No, it was actually quite the opposite. So my parents weren't like on my back about me doing anything. They were actually really relaxed. They just wanted me to do well, right? They really just wanted me to do well, and they were never in a position where they were like pushy about anything. And I think that was probably one of the biggest reasons why I did push myself as well, because I was like, okay, you've given me so much. It's just like idea of reciprocity, right? You've given me so much, and you've asked for nothing except for me to do well, right? And then you're like, okay, what's the most I can possibly do to make my parents proud at that point? And then you do absolutely everything that you can, really. And that was just a matter of asking yourself the right questions again, as we've talked about, because you ask yourself enough questions about what you could do, what you possibly could be, and you eventually find the truth. So the truth is what I was really looking for early stages of my life, and I still am. The truth as to what is it that I am not doing today that I should be doing, and then what is it that I really want to get out of this? And then a lot of people will lie to themselves about it, which is, can get you to a certain extent, won't get you to the end goal. So if you do really ask yourself, like, why is it that you're actually pushing yourself towards this? If your intentions are true, and you can look at yourself in the mirror and be like, this is why I really, really want to do this, you will inevitably have the drive to do it. It's whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's at some point when all the pieces of the puzzle line up, you will push yourself on a consistent basis to build habits to be able to repeatedly execute on the actions. It's more about just asking yourself those questions to begin with, and then actually looking for the truth instead of telling yourself that you want to get to somewhere without knowing why, and then without really looking deep into why as well.
There's so much.
I know I sound like an absolute grandpa as well.
I love it. I love it. I'm honestly about ready to get pen and paper and lean in. Okay, so with this wonderful perspective that you have, which again I love, I've always loved it. It's something I've always been very attracted to in other people. I think it's really wonderful. I also know the other side to that is stress, anxiety, overwhelm, and managing those emotions can be quite difficult. I think, yes, we're super lucky right now in that we're at the age of self-care, wellness, well-being. We're all going to put our hand up. We can speak. So it is definitely better. But I still think on the ground, tangibly, how does that look? How can people help ourselves? Like how do you move through that? It's got to be stressful trying to be a doctor. Thinking I better learn this, because if I don't, this one could go horribly wrong for somebody. That's a lot of pressure.
It's a very, very good question. And yeah, so at the beginning, I didn't handle stress too well because I just didn't know how. And, figuring out how for yourself is your own journey. But the main thing that helped me to begin with was going to the gym. So just working on my fitness. And, when you go to the gym, you release the energy that you have stored up inside you, or all the thoughts that you have running inside your head, and it's just quiet in your head for like an hour or so when you're in the gym, and it's just that peace that you're looking for. And then you have this automatic kind of reset into a new perspective as to what to do next. And then you realize that, there's maybe stuff that I've been overthinking, and there's maybe stuff that just needs to be done. I truly believe stress and anxiety comes about especially in our space, from just not doing the thing that you know you should be doing.
Agree.
And that is the main thing. So then I was like, okay, to-do list, quick, like what is it that's in my head that I know I should be doing? And I literally just pull out my notes in my phone and write down everything that's bothering me that I know has to be done, which I feel is piling up. And split it up into, urgent to-do list, radar tasks, which is like background tasks, which long-term projects kind of thing. And then just rep through it step by step. How I actually learned how to handle that initial first mentors, really learning how to manage time properly was a big thing. Manage your time and energy properly. But one thing that I don't talk about too much at all is I was heavy into the trading space early on. So I was quite successful in the trades that I was there. And that's where, the same concepts apply, like learn as much as you possibly can, do as much research as you possibly can. Because I think in the trading space, anything outside of extreme research and learning is just gambling at that point. So that's where you really learn, the highs come with the lows, the lows come with the highs, and you have to expect it. And then when it's as significant with collateral that you have on the line as well, when you're trading as well, you really learn very quickly what it takes to handle emotions. Because if you're emotional about it, you have the direct, tangible responses to what you've done already, and it can be heavy hits. So it's like, you learn very quickly, and then it's this kind of stuff. Really looking after yourself, proper sleep, proper health, like proper energy, and you'll be surprised. Like with stress, like nutrition plays a big role. Like I remember when I was eating too much, my gut health, my digestion wasn't good. I was just like feeling bad, brain fog, everything was horrible. And until I cleared that up, it was like just a constant feeling of just getting through life and feeling like there's a fuzz. I don't know if that makes sense. And then the stress just piles on top a lot quicker with that, and you feel bad. It was one of those things.
It's true. That's so true. I've got 100 questions. So I want to talk about you and your parents. I think what you're going to have to do. So everyone, Azri has a podcast himself, and I think that you should get your parents on your podcast and ask some questions, because I would love to hear from them as well and find that really interesting. Can you tell me, I think that now it's it's popular to go to the gym, and it's definitely got more now to, be a gym goer, which is excellent in my book. However, the little known benefits of the mental health aspects, they're not, people know, logically they know, but emotionally I don't think the connect is really there yet. Where do you think that that's going to go for people of your age? Do you think that they will want to pick up exercise just for the look? Do you encourage people to do it for the mental health aspects? Like how would you motivate someone else to do it?
So with exercise, with actual fitness itself, I think the actual aesthetic, the look, the actual goal that most people are thinking that they're going for is what pulls them into the door and gets that foot in the door in the first place. And then it's the feeling that you get from accomplishing and working towards goals and having the endorphins run from actually executing on exercise consistently and having stretch and knowing what you're doing, having clarity. I think the biggest thing that stops people at the start is the fear of the unknown, like not knowing what to do. Not knowing what to do is the biggest thing that stops people at the beginning, because the more uncertainty there is, the more doubt that you have around what you can achieve and what you should do to basically get to that goal. And then, of course, the mental health, the benefits of exercise is just immeasurable. Of course, we both know this because we've been through the whole space. But, when you get in, like, you will want to go again and again. It will stop feeling like a chore. I remember you mentioned that it becomes like brushing your teeth. And, at the beginning, when you were young, for example, your parents have to force you to brush your teeth every day, right? It's not something that you enjoy doing when you're a baby, but it's now something that you don't even think about. It's one of those things. It just becomes a matter of building the habits, and you won't even think that you go on autopilot at a certain point, and it's something that you feel like you have to do more than anything.
Absolutely. think that it's more that you notice if you haven't been able to train or haven't been able to do anything. That's when you really notice, oh, my mood, can feel it, how it's coming across. So that being said, where you've, seen the benefits of fitness, and yes, obviously it's so great to have the outside changes. Like, I love it. I always think of it like building a house. I've always been very practical. So I love changing people's bodies, whether it's to build, to lose, to change shape. I think it's underestimated because people paint it such a, lose weight, skinny, in such a direct way. But it's like, it can be fun. It's like when you do your hair, it's like when you pick a new outfit, like you can change how you perceive yourself. It can be an enjoyable thing. Obviously, this is different. People have disordered eating, all these kinds of things, but on the whole, it can be a fun aspect. But what also is a fun aspect is as you say, creating the habits, creating the routines to actually make life changes. Now, we're probably coming from it of understanding, because we've been through it, how great it can be. However, as we all know, the fitness space is full of this horrifying diet, crazy lines that, must have started, I'd probably say, way before you were born, certainly. And maybe at a stretch, but definitely before I was born as well. Like, drink these things, you can't eat carbs after 6 o'clock, certain food groups are bad, this is terrible, you will be able to burn 20 pounds of body fat in 10 days if you eat this one thing, or you do this one thing. As someone that's a doctor and someone that trains and coaches thousands of people, what are the myths that you can't wait to see the back of, or that you find infuriate you?
That's a very good question. There's a lot of myths flying around, and that's mainly because of how many people have a very loud voice on social media, regardless of the actual television in this thing. So anyone can say anything confidently enough and it becomes truth for some.
Do you know what? That is one of my biggest pet peeves. And it's not even me pointing the finger at them. It's me pointing the finger at me. I'm like, I look, I wish I had that confidence. It's not even real. That's just wild. I wish I had that. I was like, yeah, sorry, of course.
No, it's the confidence to say something that you don't actually know is funny. But at that point, it was something that I fell into a slippery slope with earlier as well. Like when I didn't really know what to do at the start, and then it was like taking absolute responsibility around that and absolute ownership of your own life. So it was like, if I'm still at the same weight or gaining weight while I'm eating healthy, quote unquote healthy, then what am I doing wrong here? And it's technically my fault that I've just listened to someone shouting on social media telling me to cut out this food and I can eat as much of this food as possible. And then that's why I'm fat. That's what I tell myself. And then, that applies to everything in my life. So it's like, the biggest myths that you asked. So one big thing I still hear is, you store more fat when you eat later in the night, or when you eat carbs or sugar later in the night. And it's the insulin spikes that are making you fat. And I've heard this endless amount of times as well. And that needs to die, because I would love for people to not believe that it's just the meal timings that are making you gain weight, or it's just the carbs or the bread or the sugar or the pizza or the alcohol that's making you lose weight, and they're quote unquote unhealthy. There is no specific definition for healthy or unhealthy foods. Even health professionals, nutritionists, medical professionals who push this idea of, there's guidelines around, what foods you can eat and you can't eat. It has to be really, really made well aware that nutrition and diet is contextual. Everything that becomes healthy and unhealthy is contextual. So if you eat 10 pizzas a day for 8 weeks straight, yes, that's unhealthy because you will be gaining fat. Right? You will be gaining weight for most people, right? Unless you're 500 kilos, right? For most people, you will be gaining weight. So yes, at that point, you can say, that in context to your entire diet is unhealthy. But when it comes down to, okay, are these chocolate bars unhealthy? well, if you've just eaten a chocolate bar and, you know, the rest of, and you've eaten nothing for the rest of the day, you're probably going to be burning fat, right? So it's, at that point, do chocolate bars become healthy, or is it because it's helping you lose fat? It's the same with diets like keto, for example, right? You've gone into keto, you've most likely cut out most of the junk that you're eating. So you've lost a lot of water weight to begin with. So you've magically lost a bunch of weight because of keto, and you kept losing weight and you've dropped 30 pounds because of keto, when it was more in context with what was your calorie averages looking like across the week. And then were you losing weight also because you've cut out most of the junk that, when I say junk, most of the stuff that you overconsumed, which were calorically dense foods consistently over a long period of time? Was that the actual actions? And then it comes down to, wait, hold on, did you gain that weight back did you put back on more weight straight after you decided that, you know, this is actually unsustainable? And was it a matter of you feeling absolutely miserable and building up cravings to a point where you had to binge every night at a certain point, because it was so difficult to stick to? I always say, if you're starting a diet, like, unless you're, you know, competitive bodybuilder, like, don't start something that you can't stick to for more than 3 weeks. Like, if it's something that you know you're going to be bored of or miserable eating, and you've just cut out all the foods that you like, you probably shouldn't be eating those foods in context, because realistically, if you want to lose weight and keep it off, you have to be able to eat the foods you like forever, right? You have to be able to consistently say that, you know, I can make some compromises here and there, and that's what's actually going to get me to my goal across the long run. And then I can understand exactly what's in different foods instead of labeling it as healthy and unhealthy.
100%. 100%.
I had a long-winded answer to your questions.
Well, good. I know I'm here because I'm like, yeah, that's, you know, we're both coaches. We both circle around the same conversations with our clients and people that we speak to on social media, and that's what it does come down to. And it's hard for people to believe that. But that's where the yo-yo comes from, because obviously if you're restricting and you're not having the things that you want, where's that kind of, you know, where are you going to go from there? You're going to inhale it. Well, we all do, which is also fine. I say to people all the time, like, you're not an inhuman, you're not an animal for wanting to overeat some of your favorite foods. Like, it's our human natural drive to want to eat. We're more likely to die of starvation than overeat. And so our drive to eat is real. We're going to do it. Certainly if not been eating through the day. So yeah, like, you're setting yourself up to fail. So absolutely, they need to separate out. And if people didn't say, don't eat this, do eat that, they'd be able to do that. So I absolutely agree. Now, so tell me some of the funny things that I see that I like. I mean, I shouldn't even ask this. It's purely being cheeky, but it's just like little things like the celery cleanse. Wake up in the morning and have a celery juice every morning. This is one of my favorite words that I actually wish I could never hear. Detoxify your body. So tell me, because I'd love it if I could, can I get rid of the devil inside me, detoxify myself, if I drink some celery juice?
You actually can. So, like, you know, combining celery juice, lemon juice, cinnamon powder, ginger, green tea, and black tea will make you burn fat 10 times faster and increase your metabolism by about 80%, I think. And that's a very short answer to your question. That is completely false. So there are specific foods that are going to completely detox your belly and start build up your metabolism and this and this, right? They're generally just trends which consistently fly around, and you know, people love being told exactly what to do and exactly what not to do, and it really doesn't work like that. When it comes down to it, you probably feel like you need a detox because everything else you eat across the days, or the huge meals that you had filled with foods that you're wanting to binge on because you've starved yourself, or I said, I've cut everything out. It's that building up the night before that's making you feel like you need a detox and feel like your digestion's off track. But when you look into what you're actually eating and really identify the food that may be not settling well in your body, that's when you should probably reassess, you know, what's actually working, what is actually needed for you to feel better.
Yeah, I love this. Okay, so you care very, very, very much about your parents. And they sound like amazing people. Now, obviously, you want to look after them, financially, I think is wonderful. I hope my kids listen to this, yeah? Follow Azri. No, but so tell me, how would you encourage them? What are the top things that you would want them to keep them alive and kicking for as long as possible? What aspects of life would you want to?
That's a really good question. So like they're both wanting to work on their fitness to an extent. I think, I was in the person that was telling them like, this is exactly what maybe you should be changing this and this and this, right? So they're wanting to work on it now. So the best things I am currently telling them now is, first of all, which my mum's actually doing very consistently, is going on walks. It's getting sunlight in earlier in the day and going on walks as consistently as possible. So she goes on, like a 30-40 minute walk 3-4 times a week. And what she's also found works really well for her is getting into some light sport or activity in social groups. So for how she plays badminton, so something like that where there's some level of accountability as well. So that's also helped. Then the main thing is like actually maybe picking up some weight training, not having some structure around some weight training is always going to be beneficial, because you want to feel strong, you want to feel healthy, and you want to feel like the best version of yourself. And the best way to do that is actually work on your strength, logically, like working on building some lean tissue. And no, women are not going to turn into bodybuilders by picking up a 5-10 pound dumbbell. They're not going to suddenly turn into Mr. Olympia and Miss Olympia basically from going to the gym. Please do go to the gym, work on yourself. It doesn't happen by accident. You will not turn into a bikini competitor like Ali overnight. She's put on a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice into getting there as well, but you will feel better and get to that healthy, confident version of yourself that you want to actually become. So going on walks, weight training, and around nutrition, really making sure you're aware of calorie numbers in foods. That's one big thing that's going to serve you for the long run. So maybe even, if you're not already, start checking labels, just to get an idea of what's in certain foods. If you can track and that's something that you can make work into habit, then that's great as well. Like I know Annie goes quite deep into how she helps women as well. So making sure that you're able to know what you're actually putting inside your body instead of guessing. So it's very easy to guess or forget about the little snacks that you had here and there, or the oils, the sauces, which you may let go, but like may not even think adds up. But it's the small things that you might not think adds up, even down to healthier foods, right?
Sure. That's a difficult one, I think, because there's definitely, as you said earlier, there's healthy foods, people believe, and there's not healthy foods. And so then if we eat the healthy foods, then we're going to see a change in our shape. And most people are wanting to lose weight or burn body fat to eat. That's why they eat healthy foods. Actually, as we know, some of these, whilst they're wonderful and look lovely on the plate and do include lots of wonderful ingredients, having a breakfast of salmon, avocados, eggs, toast, that's a big old breakfast. You're looking at almost half a day's of calorie there in one meal. But I think the perception is still a little bit skewed. So I think, as Azri said, it's always worth. I encourage people to do it, like dating. Do it when you don't need it. You don't want to be looking for love when you're suddenly feeling like, I want a relationship. Do it when you don't need to. Go on there, keep your eyes open, keep it fun. Even if you're not interested in weight loss, even if you're not interested in body fat, but just for your own health, you can say, you know what? I know I should be having a bit more veggies. I know I should be having a bit more fiber. I know I should be having a bit more protein. How can I do that? You can do that by, as we said, look at what you're having. I encourage people to track, give it a go. It doesn't have to be for any end result other than knowledge. And I think that, 100%, that's one of the best things that someone could do for themselves. And okay, so let's wrap this up because I know that you're very, very busy and important man. Okay. We're going to have to do a part 2 because I want to chat to you, but it's going to open up a black hole, and I know you want to get on. So, a couple of little questions for you. I have to say this, even though I'm lying. This was not my question for you, but I just want people to understand how young you are. I was going to say, if you could take yourself back to 10 years ago, what advice would you give yourself? But how old were you 10 years ago, Azri?
I was 13.
Thank you very much. Right there. So, okay. If I could ask you, what is one attribute that you would like to have for yourself in 10 years' time? As in, you have to wait, we can have it now, but forward thinking, what's something you would like? Bearing in mind the things that you've said about being able to be a bit more relaxed, not worrying about how it's perceived, and having more fun. How do you think you could do that? A person like you, very structured, is forward thinking and self-aware. How could you incorporate that? How could you bring that joy in, that freedom in? How do you think you could do that?
I think what I really want in 10 years' time is just to be more present. I do still feel I'm very much wrapped in this, tunnel vision kind of mindset, but that does take away from a lot of, what is actually going on in real life. And, you get to a point where it's, you always look outside and look around you and you're like, why don't other people think like this? Or why is no one else doing this? And then you realize that, it's, you're not necessarily meant to, and not everyone is meant to think a certain way. Like, not everyone should or has to think a certain way around everything. And I think being more present, I already understand this, but it's one of those things that I understand and don't really implement, with trying to be more present and trying to actually let go of this idea of working hard. Like, I think that was one of the biggest things that helped me scale up as well. This need to prove myself or working harder. Someone said this to me a while ago. It was when I was like, oh, it was a mentor. I was like, I'm doing this, and I was like, I was so proud of myself as well. I was like, I got this done, and I was like, oh, and then just looked me directly straight dead in the eyes and just said, like, why do you feel like you need to prove yourself? And what do you feel is making you want to tell me that you're working hard? And what is the actual outcome of this? And then you're like, okay, so what is the actual outcome of the work that you're putting in, and how can you actually be doing more high average tasks and buy back as much time as possible and get the actual outcome that you're working towards when you're working? And then outside of that, how can you actually have the freedom to be more present? And I hope to get to a point where I have freedom in what I want to do day to day without the feeling like without the guilt around that. So I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, that's right. I absolutely love how you speak and how you see the world. I think it's amazing. And I say this, I'm going to say it even with fear that I'll be condescending, or whatever that word is. I don't know. Number one, I think that your brain, even if it's full of pressure, is special because it's really exciting and where it's taking you and the things that you've done. You've had lots of big adventures in a short period of time, and they're adventures that are meaningful to you. What else is there? So don't always, yes, you're at the right crossroads and going, I need to incorporate some new virtues, but it's amazing. I think it's absolutely incredible. It's wonderful. And also though, try not to get into the trap of thinking I need to, presence, becoming more present is something that you do when you age. That's what it is. I'm sure you've been out with your mum and she's, you've gone for lunch with her and she stops in the restaurant. She goes, look at that, out the window, look at that rainbow. Wow, look at that meal. Doesn't it look so nice? I think, you bloody hell, mum, get a grip. Just some eggs, place on a bit of plate. It's age that does that. And I do that with my kids, like, wow, look at the sky. It's so big. if I'd have said that to myself 10 years ago, I'm like, I need to pack it in, get on with the day. You know what I mean? It just comes with, because you realise that you're not going to see it again. Whereas when you're younger, that's part of it. What I'm trying to say in a long-winded way is it's like, I'd say it's normal and better that you're on that side of the fence. But no, I think it's amazing. And then lastly, just a very silly question because it's fun. We all like to do fun things. If you weren't a doctor, if everything got taken away from you, the business, online, sorry about that, see you later business, no more doctoring, what would you be doing?
It's a very, very good question, actually. I thought about this a lot as well. It's like, I've always thought about it like I kind of have to be ready to lose it all at any point, which is why I hate linking my identity to exactly a certain point in my life as to where I'm at or anything. So, what would I be doing if all of that thing, but like looking towards new avenues as to scaling my learning, like my skill sets. Like I would do anything to train my time to basically acquire more skill sets. That's honestly, like I don't see this whole, let's lay back. I don't see there being a day in the future where I want to like be in a place where, laying back at the beach, right? And I don't see that being the end goal. If it gets to that point, then great. But that's not what I'm feel like I would be doing if I lost everything. That's what I was working towards again. It would be more, I'm grateful now to be able to play the game, basically. It's like as soon as I lose momentum or anything like that, that's when I feel my absolute worst. If we're talking mental health, it's when I slow down. Like if everything is going fast, it makes it easier for me to not sit with my own thoughts. And I know that's where it can get that clear. I know that's where it can be like a very difficult road. And, if I really did lose everything, I had to start over kind of thing, it would just be my own thoughts I feel like I would be sitting with. And like, it's just whatever can be done to avoid that process of staying in the same place, basically. So it would be a questionable skill. So yeah.
Okay. Do you do meditation or anything like that?
I've been meaning to. I've really, really been meaning to.
You know what I used to do? I still do it now. If I'm feeling a bit like wild stress, I couldn't always meditate. I'd set my alarm on my little Apple Watch for 5 minutes to start. Actually, 3 minutes between them, and just do nothing. And I wasn't allowed to go on my phone. I wasn't allowed to jump up and make a cup of tea. I wasn't allowed to do, meaning I couldn't clean or I just had to sit and chill. So no reacting, no social media, nothing. The TV's on fine, let it roll. But I think that was my form of meditation, just to slow down my thoughts. Like you were saying earlier, just help you then react to what you're doing. I'm only saying this to you because I just feel that, yeah, you're fast.
I like it this way at this point. I know it's not somewhere to live. Like, I don't think that this mind or mindset or like this frame of mind is somewhere that's to be, for me to be living in for the rest of my life. I just definitely do see it as seasons.